Hi, welcome back. We're going to do the second little round of exponents. Things kind of got changed up, so we have a weekend in here. So I just want to hit a few examples before you practice a little more. We're going to have one new section or part of a section, and then we'll have a quiz that I want you to complete before the week is over. So this is still section 4.1. Not necessarily in your book, all these problems, but we got to go back and we got to review a lot of what you learned in Algebra 1 that they expect you to know. So all these properties, if you remember from that handout you did, I've attached a filled out copy so you can make sure yours is accurate. But you want to make sure that you know how to use the properties. The names aren't important. Another thing to remember is that we do not have to use them in any kind of order. The problems are going to start to get a little bit harder. And so someone might do it one way, someone else can do it a different way. We will all end up or should end up with the same answer. Our work might just look a little different. There should be a few more steps on these problems as well. Okay, so continuing on here, here's our first example. Again, good idea to write these down. I really think that helps your muscle memory. When we're doing these problems, you know when you have your final answer, when you don't have any bases repeated. So like for this one, I have a base more than once. I have x in both of those spots, so I know I'm not done. You can't have any negative exponents, and you can't have any zero exponents. So I've got two bases, and I've got a negative exponent. Again, a couple ways to handle it. My suggestion though, negative exponents, we don't like them. When we see negative exponents, we move it to the other part of the fraction, so I'm going to move this down. This is not negative, so I don't mind that it's there. So it's going to stay on the bottom. X to the third is going to move down with it. Now remember, these can't just float down there, so we need something on top. We need a 1. Now if I'm looking at this, if I even just kind of focus here for a minute and I just say, oh, I just have x to the fifth and x to the third, what do I do when I have something like that? Well, when you're multiplying, as long as the bases are the same, you keep the base. Think about what you do with those exponents. You add the exponents, and we keep the numerator as 1. That is simplified form, so that's my answer there. Next one, negative 5x to the third times 8x to the fifth. So this one kind of ties into that last one. I see x to the third and x to the fifth, but a lot of times we get confused. Those are attached, they're not the same. But remember, there is multiplication in between here. So in my head, we don't have to write this down, but in my head, I can rearrange multiplication in any order. So I can do those two things next to each other, and I can do the two matching bases next to each other. So numbers, I would just multiply as normal, so negative 40. I'd add those exponents again, end up with x to the 8th. So negative 40x to the 8th. Next one, we have parentheses. Whenever we see parentheses, we're thinking, hey, we got to distribute. Well, we're distributing exponent, remember. Exponents can only go to exponents. And when I distribute, I multiply. But those aren't my only two exponents. This also has an exponent. Remember what we said about negative bases. We got to be careful with those. Those have to stay in parentheses. So negative 4 still in parentheses to the 4th, because I multiplied those. Again, I'm multiplying when I distribute, so x to the 12th and y to the negative 8th. Now, a couple things I can do here is I can go ahead and multiply out that negative 4 to the 4th. I'm not going to move that down because it's not a negative exponent. I'm just going to put it in my calculator. Because of those parentheses, I get a positive 256. If you forgot those parentheses and didn't put them in your calculator, you would have ended up with a negative 256. It's positive. X to the 12th is fine. This is not okay. We got to move just that one down. So I'll do that in the same step. Should have spaced that out a little better. But 256 x to the 12th over y to the 8th. Oh, now we've got a fraction, parentheses, and an exponent outside. We talked about on the last video, you can do this a couple ways. Most people are going to distribute first. That's what I'm going to do. You are allowed to simplify first inside and then distribute, though. That is okay. Like the last one, I'm going to go ahead and give those exponents a 1. I'm going to multiply or distribute to each exponent. So 5 squared, x to the 4th, y to the 6th. And then on the bottom here, I'm going to have 3 squared and x to the 14th, multiplying exponent to exponent. These two each I can multiply out, 25 and 9. Remember, whenever we have a fraction, once we've taken care of the exponents, we do want to look to reduce. That does not reduce. You can always put it in your calculator if you're not sure. We do want improper fractions. We don't want to change that. We don't want to say it's 2 and 7/9 because we're writing this all as one fraction. So we do want a fraction, and of course, no decimals. Now think about for a minute, what do we do with these? We haven't seen that yet in this video. It's division, same base, subtract the exponents, and we have a little trick. Big number minus small number, because that's how we like to subtract. So 14 minus 4, that's 10. My answer goes where the bigger exponent was, so it's going to go on the bottom. So x to the 10th ends up on the bottom. Nothing happened with that y because it was the only one. 25 y to the 6th over 9x to the 10th. Next one. Well, some are going to do this quick, some are going to say, oh, I'm going to just jump into my properties and I'm going to distribute, but we don't have to. Anything to the 0 power. Remember what that is? Not 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. I think I said that wrong. I said not 1. I meant not 0 because that's what a lot of people put. When you have anything to the 0 power, you're going to get 1. Sorry if I made that a little confusing. Ooh, this is a good one. What I would do on this one is I'd maybe pause the video for a second, try it on your own, start the video back up and see how you did. Most of you probably distributed your exponents first. So 15 to the negative 2nd, x to the negative 4th, y to the 6th, 35 to the negative 2nd, x to the negative 8th, y to the negative 18th. You could do a couple different things here. Personally, I hate all these negative exponents, so I'm going to move everything except that one. That one's going to stay put. I'm not going to put all the arrows in there because there's too many of them. So these three get moved up to the top. 35 squared, x to the 8th, y to the 18th. That changes all the exponents to positive when I move them up. 15 squared now on the bottom, x to the 4th, and y to the 6th. Well, now I have to go ahead and multiply out those things. Oh my gosh, it's going to be some big numbers here. We're going to get 1,225, and we're going to get 225 on the bottom. We'll come back to that in a minute. With our x's, division like we saw in the last one, I'm going to do 8 minus 4. It's going to go on the top, x to the 4th. 18 minus 6, that's 12. 18's bigger. Y to the 12th. Oh, did anyone catch my mistake? This was not a trick. I got so involved into changing things around. Oh, this has to stay on the top. Glad I caught that before I moved on. So y to the 6th was supposed to stay put. It's up here with that other y. Add those. We're going to have y to the 24th. Sure, some of you were wishing you could have stopped me earlier. I apologize. We've got one more last thing to do. We're going to divide those. So I'm going to type it into my calculator here, and I'm going to change it into a fraction. Remember, use that second PRB button. And when you do that, we want that improper fraction. You might have to hit the second ABC button to change that. We're going to get 49 over 9. And we still have that x to the 4th, y to the 24th on the top. Another little review, you can work problems up and down or side to side. You might mix it up if you need to. If you work down and up and down, I can tell your steps. If you are going side to side, I'd like to see an equal sign in between your steps, please. Remember, you're submitting your work on Google Classroom or through email. Next one, we haven't seen this yet. We're multiplying. When we multiply fractions, remember how we do that? We multiply fractions straight across. That means we're going to multiply top to top and bottom. We'll squeeze it in there to bottom. So as I multiply across here, it doesn't really change anything. I might rearrange it and say x to the 5th, y to the 12th. On the bottom, I'll keep it in the same order, x to the 9th, y to the 3rd. Once I'm seeing this as one fraction, then I can say, oh wait, this is division. I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. But the 9's bigger, so it's going to go on the bottom. 12 minus 3 is, struggling here, 9. So we're going to go ahead and put that on the top because 12 is bigger. So y to the 9th over x to the 4th. All right, let's look at one more of these. It gets a little bit more complicated. So I've got multiple variables, both top and bottom, both of those fractions. So again, you can do this multiple ways. You could simplify, then multiply. Most people, though, and again, it doesn't matter, but most people multiply first. I like that a little bit better because you multiply and simplify. If you simplify, you then multiply, sometimes you have to simplify again. This cuts it down to 2 steps. So as I go across, it's multiplication. That means for the x's, I'm going to add those exponents. So I'm going to have x to the 8th. Same thing for the y's then, we're going to add those in y to the 6th. On the bottom, that is an x to the 1st. So we're going to have x to the 3rd. Again, we're adding, so y to the 9th. Subtract when it's division. 8 minus 3 is 5, so x to the 5th on the top. On the y's, 9 minus 6 is 3. 9's bigger, so that's going to go on the bottom. Let's see. I think I just have, just one more, and then you'll have a worksheet to work on. So this one, not only are we going to have to multiply, but we got to deal with that exponent first. So we're going to distribute to all 3 of these. I realize I should probably give you a second to write it down. Of course, you can always hit that pause button. As I distribute, I'm going to multiply. So m to the 6th, n to the 4th, over p to the 4th. Nothing happened on this one, so I'm just going to write that one down. That's a bad 2 there. That's not a z. Now it's like the last one. Now I'm going to multiply across. When I go across, I add any exponents that that have the same base. So that would be m to the 10th. These two don't match, but I might want to just make sure it's in the same order, top and bottom, so it's lined up a little nicer. So if I go n then p, on the bottom I might put the n first and then the p. Well, what are we going to do now? We're going to subtract exponents when we have division and anything matches. Nothing matches that m. For the n's I subtract, it's n or n to the 1st on the top. 4 is bigger. P, we're going to have p squared on the bottom. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 is bigger, 1 on the bottom. All right, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to work on the worksheet. It's not day 2. I kind of changed things up from where I had us doing if we were actually in class. It's just worksheet number 2. You're going to look for that PDF. Make sure you're writing down your steps. Again, harder problems, I should see more steps. I would like this done on notebook paper. Write the original problem. And then make sure you submit a picture. Either email or Google Classroom. And I'll just put on here just a little reminder, write the problem, show work. I'm pretty sure I got rid of anything on the directions that said it, but you do not have to name the properties if I forgot to delete anything. So you never have to memorize those names. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. You can send me a message on Google Chat. I'll be around. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.